I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down. He should calm down.
I saw he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please? Just please.
Bombs away for the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man.
Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG. I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What's up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube. Obviously, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, listening to podcast form. Drop that 5-star review and head over to patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. I'm Matt, the hipster hunter. Obviously, we're going to discuss all things boxing that happened this weekend. I do know that there is a Jose Ramirez top-ranked card happening right now on ESPN/ESPN Plus. Obviously, we're not going to be able to break down that live action right now. We're going to break down the Gervonta Davis card, him winning via vicious first-round knockout, Erickson Lubin picking up a huge win as well, and plus the DAZN card, Alberto Machado getting upset by Andrew Cancio. Wow. That's shocking, to say the least. Ray Vargas picking up another sort of, pedestrian win, so to speak. Joseph Diaz picking up another win as well. Tons of stuff to break down, dissect, and analyze this weekend. Obviously, like I said, hit the like button and share the show. But, of course, I'm joined, as usual, by the illustrious Mr. Robbie Hearns himself, second cousin, twice removed, and also Fugatti. I don't have, a nice intro yet for you, Fugatti. I'm sorry. But, Rob, how you doing today?
Yeah, good. Glad to be back.
Also,
we've already done our Patreon show earlier, about an hour or so ago. So if you want to check that out, boxing banter that kind of lost a little bit of its banter edge when Gary called in.
I think that was peak banter. That was peak.
Yeah, maybe I didn't get it then.
That was American banter.
Oh, was it? All right. I'm staying here. No, so yeah, sign up to Patreon. Go and check that out. I think that was episode 6. So yeah, but yeah, we're back. Obviously reviewing the fights. A little bit of news on top of that. So Fugatti, how you doing?
Doing good, guys. Yeah, lots of great boxing last night. Lots to talk about here. Obviously, we just did the boxing banter show, and it went off the rails at the end there, but yeah, everything's good here, man. I'm excited to talk to everyone in the chat about boxing and see what everyone really liked from last night. The big Machado upset and all that. Vargas going down early. It's a good night of boxing.
I agree. Let's just head into it right away. The Gervonta Davis card, because I think that probably had the most eyeballs on it this weekend in terms of boxing, just because A, it's Gervonta Davis, B, it was on Showtime, not DAZN, even though the Jose Ramirez card might beat it out just because it's on ESPN. But obviously, Gervonta Davis winning via, again, vicious first-round knockout. There's obviously the added caveats of it being Hugo Ruiz, short notice fight, him being a career 122-pounder. We know all that. But when you have all those caveats, you should get your opponent out of there relatively soon, especially if you are talented and as hyped as Gervonta Davis is. I think he did that. I think he met every sort of standards we had for him in this fight. Get him out of there fast, don't waste our time, and show us that you are just levels and levels above this guy. And also, we just know that you are bigger, stronger, and hit vastly harder than Hugo Ruiz, who is, again, a career super bantamweight. Thoughts on this fight, Rob, and Gervonta Davis picking up a emphatic, quick first-round knockout?
Yeah, he looks impressive. I know there's the the sort of caveats behind it, you know, short notice and, you know, the guy coming up to the weight, but he did what he had to do, you know. Outside, I believe it wasn't the greatest weather. It was pretty cold, and he had a bit of a cold coming into the fight. But man, he is explosive. He hits hard. He you know, a bunch of stars turned out to check him out, you know, and be around, I guess, Floyd as well. He was obviously in attendance in some beautiful red cowboy boots or whatever they were. Damn.
What are those?
Yeah. But no, Tank Davis, you know, just want to see him, you know, get that big fight now. I think
we know he's talented. Like, it's not like we are doubting his talent. He beat Jose Pedraza by knockout. Like, we know he's good.
Yeah, you know, since then it's like, what have you done for us? You know, what have you kind of done since then? Which is a shame. You know, he should have been at the pace he was going, and like you say, the Pedraza win, expected kind of like bigger and better things maybe by now. But you know, we know he's been at times unhappy with, you know, inactivity. He's been, you know, because Eddie Hearn was throwing things around, and he was sort of like, "Come and save me," kind of thing. But I think now, apparently, you know, he put it out on Twitter a little while back. Al's promised him 3 fights. Apparently, even Mayweather put it out to media yesterday that he's got Gervonta Davis a fight with Shinzin. What's his name? Nazikawa.
Yeah. Yeah, Mayweather came out and said that he either has a fight or told Gervonta Davis to fight Tenshin Nasukawa in an exhibition fight, just like he did in December. God, let's not even talk about that, man.
But it's like, you know, Tank, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go, you know, put on that kind of show again. Poor Nasukawa. If that's in some kind of contract, along with, you know, fighting Floyd, you must fight Gervonta Davis next. Oh my days. He must have been making some serious yen or whatever it is.
Or he's pissing off the wrong people in Japan.
Yeah. But yeah, Tank Davis, you know, salute, did what he had to do. For me, Ruiz felt his nose explode and thought, shit, this is round 1. I don't want no more of this, because it was kind of like a delayed kind of taking a knee rather than actually a knockdown.
Yeah, that shot hurt him more. Like he was in pain more so than he was like almost unconscious, so to speak. Yeah. Right.
And I just felt 11 more rounds of this, or however long he's gonna. You know, I don't want no more of this. You know, I come, I get my money. Damn, I don't want no more of that shit. This kid fucking hurts people. So you know, I think we just need to see Tank in some stiffer, if there are stiffer tests out there for him. You know, if he's gonna put on displays and be this hard hitting, you know, explosive guy, then is there really, you know, some that can live with him?
Yes, Miguel Berchelt.
Yeah, Berchelt.
Come on,
definitely.
Come on.
No. I'm just, you know what I mean. I just feel like he's putting on the displays, but yeah, we need to see that competition. We need to see him,
of course,
step up from this kind of thing. I know it was meant to be Abner Mares, but was really Mares going to be much more of an opponent? Sure, he's probably going to be tougher.
Another guy that's moved up. You know, I think we're all in agreement here that we know that what this opponent level was. Like, none of us are going to sit here and try to excuse that. So I think we're all in agreement here that we would want Tank Davis to fight better competition next. Now, for Gotti, you know, we did the live fight chat, so obviously if people really want to see our like live analysis of the fight, go check that out on YouTube. For Gotti, I want to get your take on like who 2 different questions because they're not the same. Who should Tank Davis fight next, and who is a realistic tough fight for him next?
Well, I think 135 is a better place for him to go. I think 130, like Berchelt, if that fight could be made, is a really good fight. But he's struggling to make weight at 130. Like we saw that. Like, I mean, obviously it was, you know, a few ounces or whatever, but still, it's not a good look. You're already got, you know,
it's becoming a habit. It's becoming a habit at this point.
Absolutely. And I think 135 has some stiffer competition for him. especially if Mikey comes back down into 135, which I guess there's rumors he's not going to. But I think Burchell's a very tough fight for him. I think Burchell is tested. Is a very good boxer. Obviously, Tank is as well. He's extremely fast hands, very powerful. It's a very good fight, but does it get made? That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that, you know, where is Tank's career really going? Fighting one time a year for the last 3 years, pretty much. And, you know, we talked about this last night. Now with that Fox deal and the FS1 deal and Showtime, they're going to have to put these fighters in 2, 3, 4 fights a year.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, at that point, no one's going to put up with Tank fighting this level of competition, because everyone's kind of, it's like a comeback to the sport fight for him, because it's once a year. So it's like, oh yeah, we get to see Tank again for, you know, 2 minutes, you know? So I think he's going to have to step the level up. I really think that Burchell fight could happen. It's just obviously like we're in this like position in the sport right now where all the good fights that can be made for some reason aren't getting made. And, you know, and that's kind of I know it's a point we'll talk about later, but my Maidana thing with him coming back, it's like they're bragging about how that's PBC has all the 147 fighters. It's like, oh, great. Is this a way to like not have the Crawford fight happen or not have these other fights happen, you know? But it's in this weird spot.
Quickly, just to jump in here, Mike Coppinger has come out, I think it was today, and said, or yesterday, saying former champion Yurikis Gamboa has signed a 2-fight deal with PBC. According to industry sources, the Cuban is slated for a tune-up bout in April that could pay him $250,000. Gamboa should be matched with Leo Santa Cruz or Gervonta Davis afterward, which would pay him $750,000. Again, this is per Mike Coppinger. Is a Tank Davis Gamboa fight sellable in 2019? And this is an open question for either one of you. Fu?
No, I don't think so. I think that when Loma was going to fight Gamboa, everyone was like, that's shit. No one wants to see it, you know? I just don't think Gamboa is that guy right now. I just don't think that Tank can continue to fight. I mean, he needs to take the Tevin Farmer fight. He needs to take Burchell. He needs top level. And if he can't get up there, then he needs to go to 135, and he needs to show that
he's got something. Who at 135 should he fight next for his opening bout? Let's say he does move up to 135 next. Who's that? Who's that perfect name for a first fight in a division that is still a relevant player in the division, that is sellable, you know, that is competitive? You know, is there that name out there?
Yeah, I think, you know, I would hate to throw Campbell into a fight like that, but I honestly think Luke Campbell could be a tough fight for him. I think that Linares could be a tough fight for him. I know he'd probably knock Linares out, but
Yo, why do you want to kill my man Linares like that?
I don't want to kill Linares, but the thing is, like, Linares is very skilled. He's an old dog. He's got a lot of fights. You know, like you have to prove yourself in that. You know, it's trial by fire. You know, the old dog's always going to give you some hell. You know, they got a lot of tricks. So that's how I'd like to see him come in and just really get the resume up, because in 21 fights, he really only has what? Pedraza?
Liam Walsh was a decent prospect at the time.
Yeah.
That's about it, you know. But that Pedraza win is, I think, better even in hindsight. What Pedraza's done has at 135, I think, has made the win for Davis look even better. But Rob, sort of same question to you. Like, what do you want for Davis next? What do you think is realistic? What do you think should happen? I know since you are more of a, like, you care about the sporting aspect of boxing more, like you care about the meritocracy of it a little bit more, I think, than maybe me and others. You know, do you think that it should just be a Davis Burchell, Davis Farmer fight next, and really nothing else would satisfy you, or is there somebody else that would?
I don't know. Obviously, we want the champions to fight the champions. We want to see who is the best, you know. So while we've got, you know, Tevin Farmer over on one side, you know, on DAZN doing his thing, calling out Tank repeatedly, but according to Farmers people, they've offered that fight a bunch of times, even under like some co-promotional thing, not come and sign for DAZN or anything like that, but come and get this fight. A bunch of money's been offered, and but it looks like they're not interested in doing it that way. But yeah, we just want to see the best guys fight the best, really. I mean, if he moves up, I was just looking, if it was another American and he moved up to lightweight, I'm just looking now. It's got the list of the lightweights in America. I know it doesn't have to be an American, but I was just curious. But it's Mikey, Robert Easter, who I believe's out again soon, but I don't think they would fight each other, right?
No, they wouldn't. No.
Then it's Devin Haney, Edna Cherry, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez.
Edna Cherry. I could see an Edna Cherry fight for Gervonta Davis at 135 as his opening bout. A guy that's been around, numerous time, title challenger. I think he even had a belt at one time. I want to say, I just forget.
Hank Lundy, Mickey Bay.
Hank Lundy is another good one that they could throw in there. There's some names that you could put that I think it's not going to be big fights. But Tank Davis is so big at this point in terms of the boxing zeitgeist. He just is. We have to sort of recognize it. There's a reason so many stars were there. It's because of Tank Davis. If you looked at the amount of celebrities that talked about Tank Davis last night was insane. Same with Israel Adesanya for the UFC card. Those two guys seem to have registered for that celebrity class of people, and that's an important sort of demographic to achieve, is people with wealth, people with money, people with with a gigantic platform. Davis, has a Drake at the StubHub Center, which is now named some other bullshit thing.
I believe there was about nearly 9,000 in attendance.
Yeah, I was shocked by that number, to be honest. I know obviously a good portion of that is Abner Mars fans too, but a large part of that is Gervonta Davis. I think that's grossly understated, how drastic of a draw Davis is at a very young start to his career. I don't think the viewership is going to be, ultra impressive, but I think it's going to get, 400, 450, in terms of viewership, and that is on par with, guys like Badou Jack James DeGale fight, for example. That's on par with, people that have been in the sport for a bit, that have been champions, been Olympians, he's on par with those guys' numbers, and that's quite impressive. I wouldn't be surprised if he even breaks 500,000 here, because let's be honest, there wasn't much combat sports that was worth watching, or I should say paying for this weekend. The UFC pay-per-view was lackluster. I don't think that buy rate will be good. Even though I love the main event, the card was not worthy of $65, and the DAZN card still on DAZN. I think that is a hindrance at this point still. So it's going to be interesting to see, again, the star power of Gervonta Davis, how that can be capitalized on, especially when we all know he has some of the worst management / promotion in the game. I've never seen a guy that charismatic and gifted and talented be so frustrated with a promoter that should be a natural fit to him. But I think we all know that is just the case of it right now. And really, last thoughts on Gervonta Davis. Again, there's not much to sort of take away from the fight itself because it was 2 minutes of action. It was against a tune-up on short notice. Any last thoughts, gentlemen? Rob, Fu?
For me, I mean, look, it was minimal, but he needed that extra time to make weight again. So whether it is a struggle, I know, he was kind of sick, and there's, talk of, certain set of scales that he's using. Look, he was 0.4 over, then he tried without the underwear on, and he was 0.2. And as we know, that's nothing, quick jog or whatever, and that's that's no problem at all to lose that. But it's just, again, the internet was like, oh, Tank missed weight again, so is it a struggle for him getting down? Because we see him blow up a bit between fights. We saw the meme, the sort of, what was it, the Cabbage Patch doll kind of.
The best was when it was like they transplanted like The Rock with the turtleneck and Gervonta Davis. That was the best, I'll be honest.
Yeah, so is he due to move up? I mean, he obviously eventually did make weight, but it's adding up a bunch of times where he's needed that extra 2 hours or 30 minutes or what. I think he done it pretty quick after they said he's got 2 hours to lose the 0.2, but he was back pretty quick and made weight no problem. I just don't think it's necessarily such a good look sort of every other fight to come in. We want to see that professionalism. I think we just want to see a fully focused Tank Davis, professional. And I think he almost sky's the limit. He's exciting and powerful and explosive, and that's what we want to see, really. As much as we enjoy like the sweet science, the boxing skill, he's got that with insane
raw power, insane natural, unbridled power. The
power of a 350-pounder,
as Gary says, yes.
I don't want to start that again. I'm just shit stirring. But yeah, along with sort of that explosiveness as well. So I love to watch him, but I just want to see that competition level, step up. That's all.
Yeah, I think there's a really good comment saying, if Tank won't struggle to make weight if he fights 3 or 4 times per year, and that's true. I think if he's more consistent fighting, and is more devoted to the sport, it's a matter of. We really have to see what this guy's potential is, and a lot of other people's, not really their legacy, but he's a guy in that 126 to 135, maybe even potentially 140 range, where a lot of people are going to be like, is Loma as good as he thinks? Is he ever going to beat Tank? Is Tank ever going to take on Loma and have that fight? Farmer kind of legacy resting on this, right? So we got to see him in these fights, because it would just be heartbreaking, I think, if we never get to see that level of competition for him, and we never get to see those other guys, fight him too. Because as I said, I think, as a fight fan, a lot of times how you view a fighter is their resume. And if he's not on the resume, or he doesn't have those other guys on his resume, no one's ever going to see him as hitting his full potential,
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And quickly, before we move on to the next fight on the card, quick shout-outs to PD in the chat, whose birthday was yesterday, and Fern Gurley, a good friend of the show, and obviously a good friend of mine. His birthday is tomorrow. Salute to you guys.
Go shorty, it's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday. We gon' sip Bacardi like it's your birthday. And we don't give a fuck, it's not your birthday.
Yes. So, Fern, you better send me the invite to your birthday party, and we better get drunk tomorrow or something. I don't know, but
send me location.
Yeah. Damn, I didn't have that pulled up. Fuck, that would have been so good.
Just send me location.
Come on, Fern, you know what's up. Just send me the text. No, relax, Rob. We're okay. It's short enough, okay?
You think?
Yes, okay. Oh, my God. Rob is so worried about copyright. It's okay. If they do that, I can just remove the song. It's not a big deal. Anyways, next fight on the card. I'm going to briefly mention Mario Barrios, who won in emphatic fashion as well in the co-main event. I'm just really ready for him to take a step up. He's fought relatively nobody. It's been a lot of tune-up fight. Not tune-up fights, that's the wrong sense. But, I mean, he's definitely in build-up fights. He's in build-up fight mode. And I think he's now shown us enough to where I believe he can take that step up in competition. Fu, I think you've seen this fight. I don't think Rob has. Am I wrong about that, Rob?
I've seen the finish, I think. I've seen the end.
Okay. Which was a great knockout. So, Fu, I want your thoughts on this since you saw play the whole fight. Thoughts on Mario Barrios and what's next for him?
I mean, what I took away from this is that the guy is just levels above the competition he's in the ring with. The guy couldn't do anything against Barrios. I figured it was going to end early. When I saw the knockout in the 4th round, I kind of knew where it was going. Started thinking in my mind, who are they going to match up with him at welterweight, right? So, I mean, I could definitely see this guy. This is kind of crazy, I know, but is Horn officially moved up to 154?
You want Mario Barrios versus Jeff Horn?
I would love it.
What?
I love it.
What?
Are you off your
Yeah.
tits? Have you been
Let's
smoking
do it.
something?
Not like a. Look, man. Like there's no one in the top 10 he should be fighting right now. Honestly, like he needs a top 30 name first.
But is Horn still in the top 10? I don't know that he is.
Doesn't matter if he's in the top 10 or
He's
not.
probably top 20.
Wait. Wait. You don't think Jeff Horn, if he's actually at 147, is not a top 10 welterweight?
I don't know.
I'm gonna treat you like Gary. I'm gonna treat you like Gary right now. Name 10 welterweights. Name 10 welterweights that are better than Jeff Horn.
Oh, I can't on the spot. It'd take me a second.
Horn's
probably up there, but I think that Barrios is very, very good.
He is.
Very good.
He is.
And I think that if you put him in with a top 30, let's say he goes top 30, he's going to win.
Very quickly.
And then he's going to be up there.
Tony Bracamontes bring up a great name, Diego Chavez. I like that. Just lost to Jamal James. I like that call there, Tony. I'll be honest. Rob, any thoughts on Mario Barrios? You're muted, by the way, Rob.
Yeah, old school.
Rookie mistake there, huh?
Yeah. No, I like the look of him, but again, it's competition levels. Let's start seeing these people we're sort of a bit, high on or hype on, and let's see him go through the gears. I don't know, like next opponent.
Another name, Chris Van Heerden. That'd be another good name, I think, for Mario Barrios. Again, you want somebody of that caliber first, not a Collazo, not a Jeff Horn, not even a Thomas Delorme. I think you stay away from those names right now. You give him a step-up fight before that. You have to.
What about like a Berto or something like that?
No, I think even Berto you kind of stay away from because he's too much of a veteran. He's been at the highest points of the sport. Like that's somebody that would make a untested prospect look like an untested prospect. You know what I mean? May not win, but that might be a very tough fight for Mario Barrios at this point. Gary bringing up Adrian Broner. I think he's mentioned him like 5 times. I think I should mention because I think Gary's about to like pop a blood vessel there in the chat. I don't think Broner. Again, I think Broner would beat Barrios at this point.
Gary, Barrios fought at welterweight, bud.
Yeah, but
but
Barrios is at 140. Like this fight was at 142. Like he's a light welterweight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. But he's competing at welterweight.
Technically, but he could cut 2 more pounds, and he's not. He's technically competing at welterweight. Yes, is he competing at 147? No.
What about Saddam Ali? We saw him back out against Herrera at 147.
I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a little bit unrealistic, maybe due to obviously the promotional lines. Saddam being Golden Boy, obviously Mario Barrios being PBC. Those two definitely don't get along. It would just be interesting going forward, I think, for Barrios. What his competition is next will be indicative of what PBC thinks of him. Because let's say they do think as highly of him as Fugatti obviously does. Expect to see him with like a Collazo or Thomas Delorme or Devin Alexander, somebody that is legit talented and has been there as a wily veteran. That would be an indicator that they have a lot of faith in him. I think they don't do that. I think they play a smarter route and they go the Chris Van Heerden route more likely. Hell, even like a Brad Solomon potentially, they could throw that motherfucker in there. Anyways, digressing. The fight that I think a lot of people were most interested in and thought was going to be the most competitive turned out to be one of the most uncompetitive fights of the weekend. Erickson Lubin making me and a lot of people look like an absolute fool. Shout out to Erickson Lubin defeating Ishe Smith via absolute domination. Stopped Ishe in between rounds 3 and 4. Knocked him down a couple times. I think it was like 3 or 4 times. Dominated every second of the fight. Dominated every exchange. Ishe Smith did look old overnight in a way. I will add that caveat, but I don't want to really take away from Erickson Lubin's performance. This was exactly what I wanted to see from Lubin. This is exactly what the people that have, praised Lubin, that have hyped him up, people that thought he would beat Jamel Charlo. This is the Lubin we needed to see before that Charlo fight ever happened. So I'm glad we finally saw it. And it does show that, yeah, Lubin, top 10, probably, he is a top 10 talent in this division. He just is. You know, would a fight against a guy like a Liam Smith next, you know, just because knock out all the Smiths, would that be fun? Would that be a realistic fight? Yes, give me that. Liam Williams, hell, get all the Liams while we're at it. What was that? What was that? Fugatti slamming something on his table.
No.
Damn, Fu, come on. What are you doing here? I was like, what the I thought somebody like shot a gun at me or something. I was worried. Lubin, though, absolute talent. Like, this was, again, the performance I desperately wanted to see from Lubin. And he performed it probably better than even I thought he could in my most optimistic dreams of what Lubin's potential was. Rob, your thoughts on Erickson Lubin being an absolute beast and destroying Ishe Smith?
Yeah, I looked like Lubin touched him early, and he was running away. He didn't want to, I don't know. He didn't want to know. I don't know.
It's weird because this is directly after Ishe Smith went back-to-back wars with Tony Harrison, Julian J-Rock Williams. And that J-Rock fight was really close and controversial, in my opinion. And he comes in against Lubin, and Lubin destroys him, and it looks like that power is just light years different. Like, it reminded me almost of like after Triple G hurt Curtis Stevens in their fight. And Curtis Stevens, you could tell like that fighter of like that aggressive brawler was gone. Like the Triple G power instantly took that away from him. That's what it eerily reminded me of. In that first knockdown, Smith was just like not there. His legs were gone for I think for most of the fight. It was so dominating that it made it look weird, if that makes sense. And I feel like we can't do that because again, Ishe just came off of back-to-back close decisions against J-Rock Williams, Tony Harrison, who's a champion right now. Like, it's just a weird. The fight being that dominant does make it seem weird, but I think that we shouldn't play too much into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like we said, like the Charlo fight, you just cannot gauge just where Lubin was at that point. You know, he just got clipped absolutely clean smack on the button, and we saw 10 seconds of a fight. You know, and if he rides that shot or this that, and the other, we could have been talking about a real close fight, or we could have been talking about a later stoppage. Who knows? We just don't know. It's just one of those things, and instantly it was like, Lubin's trash, or hype job. All this talk of Lubin, he wanted this early, and look what happens. But we just don't know how that would have turned out. He just happened to get clipped right on that spot, and that was it. Game over. But he looks. I think he obviously hits hard. I just felt Ishe Smith just felt that early and was like, damn. This is this could be a long night. I'm not for 1 minute saying he not saying that Ruiz kind of quit, but I'm definitely not saying that for Ishe Smith. He just once it went to the body, that hurt, and he just couldn't cope with the younger, fresher, more explosive, harder hitter. So I believe he's now hung the gloves up. Ishe Smith, he's retired. So yeah.
Oh, he actually really retired? I don't remember seeing that.
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. From what I was on Twitter, he actually, I've seen Espinoza say thank you so much. You've been a great, person to work with, and someone, real great in the sport. So, yeah, I believe he's calling it a day now. So, yeah.
I'd retire after that lead left hook sent me into outer space as well. That fight was it was a really good fight. The thing I noticed, and the thing that I think Lubin has to be very aware of, and I think this is just going to come with more experience, but he rushes to finish. And I think that in bigger fights with people that are going to be more, not that Ishe Smith isn't on this level. I'm not saying that, but like against another one 54, like that could really hurt him. He could rush in and you see people get knocked out all the time when they've got someone hurt because they get too aggressive for the knockout. I think he has that issue where he starts to trust in his power a little too much. He made that mistake against Charlo, kind of came in, kind of got in a back and forth in the phone booth and got knocked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it a lot against Smith when he was hurt. He was full abandon going in, and I think he's going to get clipped doing that. He really he needs to calm down in those moments as he grows in that division, or I think he'll lose again by knockout.
I know what you mean. Like, what is it they say? Like, a wounded animal is a dangerous animal. So as much as Ishe Smith might have been hurt, sometimes in defense you might throw a big shot just to keep a guy off. And if the guy rushing in with all abandon, it might leave himself wide open to a shot. But I'm sure that will come. I'm sure his team will look at it and not just praise every second of that fight. You can look. Like a coach will break it down and say, look, you drop your hands there, you left yourself open there. But
and credit,
Ishe Smith was kind of backpedaling throughout the whole affair. I don't think it looked like there was much coming back at all. So you could sort of forgive a young fighter for not seeing nothing coming back and kind of having his own way with him from the beginning, really.
And on top of that, I think that's just part of his natural guard. Like his guard is so wide and sort of spread open when he marches forward, that I think he's just a little bit more open than most people. Like he doesn't have a tight high guard in any sort of frame, like any sort of sense of the word. He doesn't shell up, I think, most of the time. He's a guy that really uses distance, I think, as his main defensive tactic, is that he wants to be outside of your distance, outside of your range, where he's comfortable. That means not he needs to get back out. But when he does have his opponent hurt, like you said, Fu, he is going to run to the issue where he starts charging forward. He is more in the mid-range or on the inside exchanging, and he still has that wide-open guard. That is an issue. I don't know how he corrects that because I feel like it's so ingrained with his style, that he would have to literally change how he fights in a way, how he stands. That's hard for fighters to do in a sense. But I really have nothing else on this fight. I think Lubin showed us exactly what we wanted, shows that he is the hype prospect we all believed he was. And on top of that, I think we now can safely say Lubin against anyone in the top 10 is a realistic fight and a competitive fight and a fight that we all probably want to see. So Lubin against anyone in that top 10, I'm happy with. Any final thoughts on Lubin picking up the very, not easy, but very dominant and devastating win against Ishe Smith? No,
man.
I briefly watched the Javier Fortuna fight. I'll be honest, I didn't really watch it like with any intent. Because Javier Fortuna fights are relatively boring, in my opinion. Like he puts on weird performances, if that makes sense. Like the Adrian Granados fight, for example, with a lot of headbutts, him going through the ropes. I feel like that's very indicative of just Fortuna's career. So I really don't have much to say about Fortuna picking a win because, again, I mostly did not watch it. I kind of just put on the background and was doing other stuff. Did you guys watch this fight at all?
I did.
Oh, good on you,
and
Fu.
I can tell you that it was really sloppy from about the 5th round on. I mean, they were tripping over each other's feet. There was a time that he caught him that Fortuna caught him with an uppercut and then pushed him down with his other arm. And the ref called it a knockdown because he pushed him over his leg. It was a really sloppy and hard to watch fight. It wasn't really good. I did not enjoy that fight at all. It was just, it was very, very sloppy.
Yeah, we don't need to press on that anymore. Let's go to the DAZN card, which obviously turned out to be more of a dramatic story, or I should say dramatic event than I think we all sort of anticipated. I think we should start with what is the story of this card, which is Alberto Machado losing to Andrew Cancio in massive upset loss and via vicious body KO. And honestly, this fight was fantastic. It was a 4-round fight, and all 4 rounds were entertaining. Cancio was dropped in the first round, came back. I think this was either his first or second fight after retirement from losing to Joseph Diaz. And he comes out here and beats Machado, who I think a lot of boxing hipsters sort of pegged as the guy to maybe be the guy in the division. Everyone wanted to see him face Davis, and everyone thought that he would beat Gervonta Davis. And I'm not going to get too far into like the WBA situation and why Machado is the regular champion, why Davis is the super champion, because it is A, confusing, B, complicated, and C, frustrating in every sense of those words. But
who cares?
What was that?
And D, who cares?
That another good point. Fuck the sanctioning bodies. But Machado losing is a massive upset. We have to put that in comparison. Like, even though Andrew Cancio is a decent fighter, like I think people grossly overstated how much of an underdog he was. He has beaten irrelevant guys that are perennial top 20 guys at 126 pounds. So it's not like he's a relatively nobody. However, this is still a big upset, and Machado losing in this devastating fashion is another sort of sinked ship for Golden Boy, and I wonder how they recover with this division, because that was their one piece at 130 pounds was Machado, and he was a big piece. Now they don't have him at all, in my opinion, not because he's not with them, but because I don't think we're going to see him back at this level for some time. And I think maybe the Corrales win is looked at a little bit more fondly than we should. That was a fight he was losing most of the rounds in until he got that late fight finish. Maybe we overrated Machado. Digressing, though, Machado losing via vicious upset, insane stuff. Fu, I want to get your thoughts on this. What do both guys do next? What does Golden Boy do next with Machado? Are all the boxing hipsters crying somewhere because their guy lost? Your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I think a lot of the boxing hipsters are crying because it really looked like Machado was going to handle this fight. Early he had a really early knockdown, a really nice left hand knockdown on the guy, and I thought, okay, well, Machado is going to handle this fight pretty easily. Then in the second round, you saw things start to turn, and that guy just took over the fight. Cancio just took over the fight. And to see, it looked like in about the end of the third round, early on in the fourth round, like Machado just was giving up. Like when he took that first body shot knockdown, it didn't look like he wanted to keep fighting.
No.
And you cannot be a champion and give up and against, a guy who came off a 3-year retirement, works a full-time job, took a vacation to take this fight. That's legit where he was. Not to diminish Cancio at any point, but Machado's, I think you're right. We're not going to see him on that level again for quite some time. And as far as Cancio, man, I can see people wanting to make fights real quick with that. I bet Hearn goes for a unification. It being Golden Boy, they're working really well with Golden Boy.
But remember, it is a, air quote unification because it's regular championship, with another full champion. I don't know if that's really viewed as a unification the same light.
Yeah, it's not. I got you. So I could see some Cancio maybe getting some fights with people that they want to put in with like a Tevin Farmer, making someone relevant. I don't see Cancio being someone who's a player in 130.
No, God,
I think this was like a miracle win. I'm obviously tough ass guy. Really went to work that night, lived in the moment, and made it happen.
his combinations on the inside were quite impressive. He was landing
nuts,
insane combos on Machado, and Machado had no idea what to do. Like the second Cancio got on the inside, got within that range, that very long range of Machado looked like a fucking newborn deer. Okay, like he had no idea what he was doing, arms flailing and getting caught with shots. I it was just a really impressive performance from Cancio. And also, on top of that, Tony bring up in the chat, rematching Jojo Diaz. I think Diaz is at 130 now. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. He is at 130 now. I could see that rematch happening. That's another Golden Boy fighter. And let's be honest, Joseph Diaz is a more valued fighter for Golden Boy than Machado. I think they would forego a Machado rematch in any sort of sense of the word for a Joseph Diaz rematch with Andrew Cancio. And that's really what we're probably going to get. Rob, your thoughts on Machado losing devastatingly and also I think potentially not ruining his career. That's far too hyperbolic, but definitely a massive setback in his career when it was starting to trend in an upward direction.
Yeah, it was strange. I was watching and like Fu said, he got the early knockdown, but Cancio just got up and plowed forward and looked to get, like you say, underneath and inside. I just felt Machado, he didn't use his attributes. He didn't use that reach advantage, the height and all that kind of thing. Seemed to almost like Robert Easter give up that, sort of giving up his height. But I don't know. For me, I felt something might have been wrong with Machado in some way. I felt Freddie Roach in a corner didn't really offer much, as if they knew something was wrong or something hadn't quite gone right in camp building up or in some way, because I felt Freddie Roach almost looked resigned to the fact that this wasn't the best Machado that he's seen and knows. But take nothing away. Like you said, the combinations that Cancio was able to put together, he put it on him big time, you know, and especially getting off the floor to do it. I don't think it was the heaviest knockdown. There was like above the temple, you know, the one that sort of disorientates, and then he took a kind of a left hook on the way down. But I don't think it was completely like clean or anything like that. So he got up, and I think he was pretty, you know, solid in getting up. It wasn't like a heavy knockdown in some regard. So, but he still got off the floor and still got up and absolutely put it all over Machado. I was really impressed with him. But like I say, in some regard, I feel something wasn't quite right with Machado on the night, you know. And this is, you know, I've seen it a lot lately because of all this Lomachenko crawler stuff, and people say, you know, sometimes these fighters have bad nights, and I don't know whether it's, you know, some kind of
God, wait, hold on. No. Fu, let me make my joke. Let me make a joke. It's just a joke, Rob. Fu, did he really just make a Machado transition to Corolla beating Lomachenko? Did that just happen? Did I just hear that with my own 2 years? Did that just happen, Fu?
I didn't get to finish, so you don't know.
Look, man, you know, you can have big dreams, and like the thing we love about UK boxing is they roll with their guys. They're you know, Corolla is about to become the guy that's going to unseat Lomachenko. Okay,
yes, because you know what, Andrew Cancio did it. Fucking Corolla can do it. That is right.
No. My point is,
I'm messing. Relax, Rob. It's okay.
No. I'm just trying to, before people think that's legit what I'm saying. There's other listeners, right? Not just you. So all I'm saying is, you know, sometimes these guys aren't fully at their peak. Sometimes they have an off night. And on this occasion, it was Machado and a guy that works for a gas company. Like Fu said, he took some time off work just to get the fight. And he's going back to work. He gets up at 5 a.m. or what, you know, and goes to work. What a story, you know. This is forever. This is forever the story of his, you know, his boxing career, you know. So whatever comes next, he made it, right? He done his thing. This, you know, you'll never, although someone will probably take the actual title away from him, but it's always, in some regards, I was the guy, you know. I was the champion. I beat this kid that was spoke of and everyone rated him, but, you know, he knocked me down, but I got up and I finished, you know, this. And it looked, you know, horrible body shot, but I just felt, like Fu said, he took a couple early, and it was like I don't know.
He didn't like what was coming at him. You can tell he didn't like what was coming at him.
Yeah, and just like even trying to fend him off, it was all like sort of like pity pat. So I don't know. You see these guys, you know, when they do this sort of slow pity pat onto the heavy bag, just sort of going through like keeping the
motions. Yeah, they're going through the motions in a sense. Yeah,
you want to keep him off you. You can hit him, you know, like put something on it. It was just, I don't know. It was real bad. I feel something was wrong, and I felt Freddie Roach knew it, and there didn't seem to be a whole heap of, you need to do this. There was no animated panic in the corner. Like, come on, he's doing this, he's doing that. I think after round 2, they thought, yeah, this is happening, and kind of resigned themselves to it in some way.
Quickly, sorry, Phil, let me just add some more sort of factual information around this fight. Rene Alvarado is the current mandatory for the winner of this fight, so he's a mandatory right now for Cancio. I doubt we see that. Why? Because it's the same organization that after Machado beat the super champion, Gisreel Corrales, they used the excuse of Corrales missing weight to then downgrade him from super champion to regular champion and then give the Gervonta Davis Tank Jesus Cuellar fight super championship status. It's the same organization that cares more about which sanctioning fee they're getting and from who. Joseph Diaz or people like that are going to give them a higher sanctioning fee than Rene Alvarado. I think we're going to get some funny situations here. Again, it's the WBA. Fu, what were you going to say?
I was just going to crack a joke about nobody at his work is going to care about regular or super champion when he strolls in with that WBA strap on his shoulder.
That's true.
Like imagine being that guy. You take vacation, you go fight one of like biggest prospects or, like a super hyped up guy. Everyone loves him. And then you stroll back in and you took the guy's belt, and you took a week vacation or something. It's like everyone's going to love him.
Imagine he's like, so what did you think to my fight? And his colleague goes, I thought, it doesn't matter what you he comes in with a rot. It's lap it up, do that victory lap. But whatever happens next, he done his thing, and he can say he was a champion.
I agree. I largely agree. Let's move on. I've unless we have anything else to say about Machado losing. Any other points about that? No.
Nope.
Ray Vargas defeating Franklin Manzanilla. This is one of those other fights that I kind of just put on. I knew the results of it before I watched it, and I kind of just went in auto-tune. Ray Vargas, from what I saw, looked dominant as always. Outboxed Manzanilla, from what I've seen. I don't have much to take from this because, again, it's Franklin Manzanilla. Just give me Ray Vargas versus Daniel Roman. Like, give me that fight. I want to see which one's the real deal. And then we can, actually get hyped for a Ray Vargas fight. Let's do that.
Maybe you'll get to see TJ Dehaney versus Vargas.
Which one was more discussed? I thought it was Roman Vargas. I thought that was more discussed.
No, I think it's virtually a done deal with
Doheny?
Danny Roman and Dehaney, yeah.
Oh, you first said Vargas Doheny. That threw me off.
Because you said you want to see Danny Roman, but what if TJ Dehaney wins against Roman?
Stop. Come on. That's funny. That's cute.
Is that what you think? That's exactly. It doesn't matter what you think.
That's cute. That's cute, Rob.
I'm just saying.
So,
hey, like Fu said, 2019. You can have dreams, man.
You can have big dreams this year, guys.
You can do it. We're letting you.
So here's what I think. And Vargas got dropped in the second round, I believe.
Yes.
Of that fight. So, I thought he looked good. He looked good. But I think Roman beats him. Yeah. I don't see him. I mean, even against a Doheny. Doheny is a tough guy. I think that could go a decision to Doheny. I don't see Doheny knocking him out or anything, but I really don't see how he stacks up at 122 right now after getting, Manzanilla, dropping him, with a really good combination, too. It wasn't like a lucky punch. It was like a 4-punch combination. Mm-hmm. It's different if you get, flash knockdown because you're coming in and you're just unguarded, but he was getting tagged with some combinations early. And those other guys are levels above that other guy. So, Manzanilla, no one would have thought he was going to come in and drop Vargas. So I think most of the other 122 guys are going to beat this guy. I mean, I don't really see his future there being super bright as a belt holder because I think any unification fight, he'd probably lose at 122. I can't see another guy that he would beat at 122 that's a champ.
Even you throw in Emmanuel Navarrete, who just beat Isaac Dogbe. I think he beats Ray Vargas right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I largely agree with you right now. Golden Boy, this card was supposed to be, I think, a big showcase to their young talent right here, like Ray Vargas, Machado, Joseph Diaz, all in the same card. And I think they all three largely disappointed. I think we should move on to Joseph Diaz right now. He won. I think he won, obviously, in a dominant fashion, won every round, but he had to work every round to be winning those rounds. Like, Huerta was there for all 10 rounds. He was landing combinations on Joseph Diaz. We saw that in a losing affair against Gary Russell Jr., we saw this version of Joseph Diaz that was like a come forward, aggressive, sort of like hunter killer, right? Like that was the version of Joseph Diaz we saw. I'm like, oh, we like that version. Because before that, Joseph Diaz was more of a like traditional, very clean cut boxer, I would say. Like he was like a Mikey Garcia light, right? Like in his earlier career. Now I think he's trying to transform to a much more of an aggressive, come forward, volume puncher. I don't know if that suits him. I'll be honest. I don't think he necessarily has the power. I think he may have had the size against a Gary Russell Jr., and that's what made him think that. But a guy like Charles Huerta who can take all the shots is going to make him work. And again, that's just Charles Huerta. Wait till he fights a Leo Santa Cruz, actually right now at 130, more like a Miguel Buchel, more like a Tevin Farmer. I don't think Joseph Diaz is going to do that well. And I think, again, this was supposed to be a showcase performance for him, and he didn't look like a showcase performance to me. Maybe I'm being ultra critical, but Rob, your thoughts on Joseph Diaz?
I didn't catch it.
Oh, wow. Damn, guys.
That's the one you sent with the weird camera angles?
Yeah.
No, it was Showtime, right? He showed Smith.
Showtime was the weird camera angle, yes. The Joseph Diaz one was like the zoomed in one on YouTube. You know when they do that? When they zoom in a little bit, so it cuts out the overlay. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't think I finished watching it.
That's okay. Then I'll go to Fugatti. Don't worry about it. You can hang back there. Dream of TJ Doheny beating Daniel Roman and Ray Vargas.
TJ Doheny, no losses.
That's going to be one hell of a fight. That's all I can say. Doheny and Roman. This is going to be a good one. I think my thing with Diaz is the same thing as before. I think, well, not that Huerta is like on that level, but he just struggles at that like top level. And I think that, a lot of these guys forget, for instance, going back to the Cancio Machado fight. Mm-hmm. Cancio fought a really disciplined fight, and he beat Machado. Like he had a game plan. He worked the body. Like Jojo Diaz, he used to do a lot of those really good things, like you said. Now he is maybe buying it. Maybe he wants to be the next Mexican star type guy, and he wants to be that like really like I'm going to be in all these wars. But it can't be everyone's style. I think that Canelo has pretty much proven that you can still be a big Mexican star and not be a come forward bruiser. You can have good defense. You can be a slick boxer, and you still get the respect because you're putting yourself in there with the right competition. And Jojo Diaz really has to go back to respecting the game plan, working the body, breaking people down early, and then having the power to finish them late. Like a lot of these guys want to finish people 3 or 4 rounds. That's not the world of boxing at the top level. No. You're going to go 12 rounds. You're going to go into 8, 9, 10 rounds. You got to have the discipline to get there, though. And you got to look good doing it. And he didn't look great doing it. Like he won the fight, but it was a tough fight.
Yes.
Like
I just remember Joseph Diaz having like a really good jab back in the day. Like, where did that jab go? Like, that's not gone. I know that's in his toolbox somewhere. He's just not utilizing it. I think you're right. I think he does sort of he's bought into his own sort of hype, to use that word. I don't think it's the right word to use, but I'm going to use it. And on top of that, I think he does sort of want to embody that Mexican come forward fighter. I think he received a lot of love, I think, in losing to Gary Russell Jr. That was a fun fight. It was a fight that Gary Russell Jr. really had to work to win, and it was arguable. It was controversial. It's probably the first time we've seen Gary Russell really in trouble since Lomachenko, obviously. And that was a Diaz game plan of being come forward, of being the aggressor. And he hasn't deviated from that game plan since. And guess what? Every fight should have a different game plan. Joseph Diaz is a very young guy. I think he's still in his 20s at this point. He has time to get back to a boxing first mindset. I think that's really what he is. I think he's a boxer. I don't think he's a come forward, aggressive brawler. I don't think that is naturally his style. I don't think that his natural attributes, his natural talents lend to that style. Any last thoughts, gentlemen, on the fights this weekend?
Very quick. Christina Hammer had a fight in Germany and won in the second round, and said that she's anxious now for the Shields fight. So
I'm shocked that wasn't picked up by anyone.
It was online somewhere, but I forgot it was on until I just literally saw the I saw the tweet there. But I've just posted it in there if you wanted to have a look. But
shocked like Matt from Germany didn't pick that up. I'm making a joke, but I feel like there is actually a match from Germany. No, there's a match from Italy. I know that.
Yeah, I think Germany is, and Spain as well now, I think.
They have a match from Spain?
There's going to be, I think, starting fairly soon, I think.
Yo, my Spanish boys, man, they're knocking out top-level competition, man. You got to respect them.
And by the way, I think things like the tank fight was shown on DAZN Germany last night. So, you know, it all goes here, there, and everywhere, I guess. Different networks picking it up. But, yeah, nothing really more on the fights. No, sorry, just quickly saw something else. But, yeah, obviously we'll wait and see the results of tonight, or maybe chat about those tomorrow or whatever. So, yeah, whatever Fu thinks now.
Fu, any last thoughts on the fights this weekend?
I think overall it was a good night boxing. It's
decent. It was all right.
It's always weird because we talk about, you know, when the A sides just chew through everyone, you know, but then we're also not happy when the A sides don't just chew through everyone and the matchmaking fails, or it's really good matchmaking actually and put someone to the test. So
well, you know why that is, right? I think there's a very clear reason why there is that dynamic where, like, for example, all these fights were supposed to be A-side showcases, right? None of them turned out to be that, I would argue. Why are we now upset that all those fights turned out to be more competitive than what we thought, and we got a better night of fights than what we previously thought? I think the reason why is because we feel like we got sold a false bill of goods. Like, we got sold on Machado. We got sold on Joseph Diaz. We got sold on Vargas. And they're not really meeting what we were sold on. And I think in any sort of, buyer-seller relationship, when there's a dynamic of feeling like I'm being ripped off, and I think that's what it feels like here for most fans. It feels like, hey, like, Machado wasn't that good. There's that instant thought, right? Is that, oh, Machado... I know I had it when we were doing the live fight chat last night for the Israel Adesanya fight. People were in the chat saying, oh, Machado got knocked out, upset. We're like, man, I guess Machado wasn't that good. That was the first thought we had. I think that's the reason why we're never happy, to use that phrase. You know, boxing fans are never happy.
Also, it does make it difficult for the division to take shape.
Yes.
Because now a belt's a place it shouldn't be. You know,
or not that shouldn't be, because that's the wrong sort of term, but it's more of a place that we didn't think it would be. It's a place also we don't think it will last. And again, that division hierarchy, it's constantly muddled. You know, who's the best guy at 130? There's an argument. Who's the best guy at 126? There's an argument. You can literally run through almost every division, and there's an argument who is the best guy in the division. How is that possible? How can we have a sport where it's perennially us going, hey, I don't know who the best guy is at X division? You know, that's an issue. It becomes one, at least.
Yeah,
you need to be from the UK, then it's easy.
Why? Because all the UK guys are just the champs.
I'm messing, but by the way, have you seen tonight's knockout of Joel Diaz? Have you seen
I've not seen it, but I did hear that Joel Diaz Jr. did lose via upset, and that's a very big upset loss. That's huge.
Look it quickly in the chat. I've sent as a top rank Twitter of the actual knockout. Damn, but yeah, I don't know if you want me to take it into some other news, Matt. If you're looking at that video, but that was a nasty lead left hook, right?
Oh, I've not seen it. We can say it for another show. Just add another topic to our next boxing show, even though we probably will have AJ news to get to. That would be big enough. But let's briefly talk about this Maidana deal. And then we'll go to callers. Again, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue for international ad Mixed Comment Radio on Skype. My Skype computer is not open, so I will do that in a second. I do apologize about that. But Marcus Maidana is set to make a insane amount of money here. Let me get the exact figures per Mike Coppinger. The pact calls for Maidana to earn at least $1.5 million in his return fight, and then a minimum of $3 million in his second bout, a matchup with a named opponent. Maidana is expected to compete at welterweight, where he once held a title. It's a division PBC is stacked with talent. This is Mike Coppinger talking. Marcos Maidana announced his comeback last night. He has agreed to a multi-fight deal with PBC, according to industry sources. He'll train with Robert Garcia and return in summer, possibly at 154 pounds. Could meet Adrian Broner in a rematch afterward. I got him.
Very quick. I just want to point out that Mike then said at Boxing Talk, G was the first with the PBC connection. Just, you know,
no, that's a good point. Very good point. And I forget who that is. I know. Go on his name. Go on his name. Just do.
Yeah, I will. You know, I think
it's like Leon or something. It's something like that.
G Leon. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, Maidana's had to make a lot of money in his comeback. Good for him. I mean, why not? This is interesting though, because couple it with the Gamboa news of them signing Gamboa to a 2-fight deal. Very, a low fight deal for a lot of money, and a guy that was a name in boxing circa 2012, right? Like sort of around that time. Maidana, again, similar time span. It's interesting that PBC is going back to the well for these names and giving them very big contracts. Obviously, this is, again, coupled with their new TV deals, so they're going to have main eventers on dozens and dozens of cards. Maidana and Gamboa are long-time main eventers, so I see why they're picking them up. But it's also for very big deals. I wonder what the risk reward is for these big deals for these fighters, because Maidana come back 154 and lose. Like, that's very possible. Gamboa has not looked good recently. Even when he faced Rene Alvarado, who's still a mandatory, I think he beat Rene Alvarado by close decision. Gamboa and Maidana are people that you're spending a lot of money on that may not really deliver to PBC what they're hoping for. Just something to look out for. But again, Maidana coming back, making a big paycheck. Good for him. Adrian Broner rematch. I said it before. I love that. Give me that rematch. But yeah, Maidana coming back, making bank, and potentially fighting some big names.
I think.
Oh, Fu. Okay.
Oh, sorry,
no,
sorry.
it's okay. You jumped in there. Whoa, it's your show now.
My bad, man. I think these names are coming back for a purpose, and that purpose is that the PBC is promising pay-per-view money to certain fighters to hold them, because there's so much money in boxing right now. And a Maidana coming back, if he does come back at 147 or welterweight, like you're saying, well, that's a Thurman fight. That's someone to make your name off of. That's a big fight to be in, to get some exposure. It's a fight that casuals are going to watch, like I said before, I just really don't like the idea of these guys coming back and having these fights, because I think it's going to slow the process on the stuff that we want to see. Like, it's going to slow a Crawford Spence, because what if they throw Maidana in there with Spence? It just slows the divisions down to make money for guys that they're trying to hold in that stable, because there's so much money everywhere else, so I don't really like the return. I mean, it'll be fun to watch him fight again, but I just hope it doesn't throw a wrench in some of the unifications we want, some of the bigger fights we want.
Yeah, I agree to a point. I think short of all these guys fighting each other, which, we all want to know who the best welterweight is, but do the powers that be want these guys to fight each other necessarily like now? So they need to find some kind of marquee name or some to make these big, their big stars, their big future, hopefully for them, pay-per-view stars to, get that name that's going to be a draw. I don't know if Maidana at this point is that name. I guess it kind of is, but look, it's like nearly 4.5 years ago we saw him, you know. Since then we've seen him massive, enjoying the Floyd money. You know, we saw him do some kind of almost little shout out saying, "Oh, Floyd, I'm coming back for you," and blah 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 blah. He still looked, you know, pretty big. So when is this return? When exactly is he going to be down to 154, like it says, and then down to 147? I don't know, but whatever, man. If he wants to come back and make some bank, then come back and make some bank. Who's going to turn that down, I guess? But it would be what is he like? 30, was he 35? So I don't know. I know like heavyweights can go on a bit longer and fight at this older age, but I don't know. I guess Manny's showing the way at 40 years old, and Floyd to a point at 40, 41. But you know, Nazakawa isn't really showing that you've still got it at that age. But yeah, you know, come back, do whatever. But I just feel this is kind of like, well, do we want the Spencers versus the 30? I don't know. They want to build that up a bit further down the line, I think. And I
agree.
I think that they feel that we don't want to see many Spencer Campos. I know he was a Mando, but around a massive bunch of names out there for people to keep getting hyped to see the Spencers, the Porters, this, that, and the other. So
like, you can't put a Spence Ocampos on Fox. I'm sorry. Like, I just legitimately think that you can't put that level of fight on Fox. And then I mean, one of Spence does good pay-per-view numbers. You can't put that level of fight on pay-per-view. I think that's a gross misunderstanding of A, your platform, and B, your consumers. But digressing, unless we have any more points, let's go to callers. Any more points, gentlemen?
Just that Parker and Chisora look like it might be actually happening. I think Parker's done a TalkSport interview, and he says, he definitely wants to fight Derek Chisora. So, barring some negotiation, lowballing, doing some of the famous AJ lowballing if Chisora does that route or something like that. But Joseph Parker declares he wants Derek Chisora next to earn a rematch with Dillian White.
So, there's only one Derek Chisora.
Moving on. Let's go out to callers. Santiago in LA. Santiago, how you doing?
Doing good, dude. And for the record, that chant for me will always belong to Ricky Hatton. So
damn
yeah.
straight. Get your facts straight here, foo. And Rob, you should know better.
What did I do?
Anyway, back to Santiago.
Yeah, man, just here enjoying a Sunday of boxing and a Sunday show of MCR, and it's fascinating how some of the fights turn out, because that's obviously the mindset I had as the weekend got closer, especially once Mars dropped out because of the eye injury, was that this was supposed to be a showcase weekend for a lot of fighters, and the zone card was the one that probably had to do the most work for their fights. Machado got beat down in 4 rounds. Vargas struggled in the early parts before coming back to, take the decision win. And Joseph Gio's worked in dominant fashion, but still worked to get his win too. So, it's funny because it's interesting how when we look at some fights, we look at the fighter that lost, it gave the other guy, a better fight. Like, oh, this is the guy, like, I'd love to see him back in action again. And then other times we're like, oh, man, I guess, this guy was never that good to begin with. I don't know if that's anything to do with what we were sold, but I definitely find it interesting that sometimes we think that way with some fights and think differently with other fights. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think people are fickle, man. People have such ingrained biases that I think they are not even aware of. Like, I have biases. Rob has biases. Fugatti has biases. You have biases, right? We all have naturally ingrained biases. How that affects how we judge fights, how we score fights, how we judge fighters, how we view certain promoters, that all I think plays a factor. And I think it just ultimately comes down to, hey, we're fickle people. And, combat sports fans, imagine if we were like stick and ball sports fans, where we had jerseys, right? We would be the only sport, combat sports overall, be the only sports to have it where people would be taking off jerseys mid-fight and putting on new ones, right? You don't see a Dallas Cowboy fan taking off their Cowboy jersey and putting on like a New York Giants jersey, right? But in boxing, you do see that. You do see that quick sort of like, okay, fuck that guy, I'm on to the next thing. Do I think that's ultimately a bad thing? Potentially. I mean, I'm much more of a guy that like there needs to be like some, psychological studies on boxing fans for us to know more about it, but that's never going to happen. I just think ultimately it comes down to us being fickle, and we're going to ride with people and ride with certain hype trains, and when those hype trains get derailed, some of them we judge more than others. And that's just the matter of the fact, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. But it'll be interesting to see, because definitely at 132, the division doesn't seem to be the strongest with its champions. I know that right now Burchell and Farmer are lined up for fights, so those fights probably can't be made with Cancio. I know that Ito is available. He doesn't have anything scheduled, so maybe they make that fight. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see what the matchmaking goes for 130 at this point, especially considering whether or not Machado moves up or whatnot. Because I definitely think that he's not going to be around for a good while, at least as he tries to rebuild his career. And as for the Showtime card, Lubin, man, wow. Ishii Smith is a tough son of a bitch, and to see what he did against Ishii Smith is just kind of like, damn. Like as soon as he started putting the hurt on him, he was on Clear Street, man. He didn't want to be in there anymore. He was looking for a way out, and some of those knockdowns just, they were just like, just get me out of here. Just get me out of here. So kudos to Lubin showing that he's got what he got. He's a young guy, 23. I definitely look forward to seeing what he has when he's given the proper time to actually become this fighter that we know he can be, versus being rushed to the top, like what was the case with the Charlos. And Barrios, I don't know about him cutting 2 weights personally. I think he's been weighing this consistently for his last few fights. I think he's naturally gonna be a light welterweight, and I don't see him being someone that will struggle if he decides to campaign at welterweight. Is it a good idea? I don't know. Who would I like to see him up against? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure, just because I still think he's a work in progress. But I would like to see him start to step up his competition, because definitely these last couple of guys that he's been fighting, they don't cross the memory banks. They don't cross the memory banks. It's just simply Mario Barrios is fighting. Mario Barrios is supposed to win. He wins, and that's it. So definitely it'll be interesting to see where he goes, because definitely, like Davis, competition needs to start being stepped up. And as for Ruiz, Davis did exactly what most of us thought he would do, especially with a guy that has the kind of power that Davis has against a guy that was 2 divisions below him. It is unfortunate to know that since the Pedraza win, he's only had 3 fights. He won the IBF belt, lost it on the scale, didn't even get to defend it. Fought Cuellar, won, a vacant belt, and then defended it against Ruiz. I don't know whether or not there's still a lack of focus because of the poor relationship between management, between him and his promoters. But definitely, if he does decide to stay active, maybe that's going to be what makes a difference, because definitely there's a difference between the guy that stays dedicated but only fights 1 year and needs to be consistently fighting to stay dedicated. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not he decides to maybe his next fight go up to 135, or if maybe fighting more consistently this year helps him stay comfortably at 130. So definitely want him to see in a step-up fight. Can't have any more of these, because otherwise, what's the point? We're just going to know, like with Barrios, that he's supposed to fight, he's supposed to win, and that's it.
Hey, Santi, I don't know if you mind me asking you, but when's the last time in 126 or 130 that we've had a unification?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I really can't remember personally. it has been a while, and for the last few years, it has been pretty split. Considering, like, I can't really think of any fight under 140 where there's been or attempted to been a unification. We had the Postal Crawford, then Crawford and Dongo. At 168 we had Jack and DeGale for the unification, but south of 140, I can't really think of when there was. Well, no, south of 135, I can't think of when there was a unification, because the most recent one at 135 was Lomachenko-Pedraza, even though we all knew Pedraza was not going to, pose much of a issue, even if he did go the distance. So in recent memory, I can't think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when people talk about 126 and 130, how, those, Loma jumped out of those real quick because he couldn't get belt holders to fight. And it looks like that seems to be a struggle in those weight classes, and it's kind of holding those divisions back from like breakout stars, because, no one's putting their belt up against another belt holder. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. We got to see Tank get in there with, it's got to be Farmer, it's got to be Burchell, he's got to move up and start making a path for himself in 135.
For sure. And that's pretty much all I really did have to say regarding the topics. If you guys have any other questions, Fu, Rob, Matt, feel free to shoot right now. Otherwise, that's my call. Keep up the good work. Everyone that's listening into the show, share the show, hit the like button, subscribe, and show these guys how much that the work that they put in matters.
Thank you, Santi, for the call. Always appreciated. Rob, did you have a question for him?
No, I just wondered if you could see any more upsets this weekend with the fights remaining, because it seems to be the weekend of upsets.
I think the Joel Diaz fight was like the big upset on the top ranked card. That's a pretty big one. I don't think Ramirez. I don't think Ramirez gets knocked out or anything. Relax.
How many more fights are on the card?
I don't know. What, 3, 4, 5? I don't know. Andy Vence has already fought. Joel Diaz already fought. Like, that's a lot of people that have already fought. So it must be like coming up soon. It might be an early fight today because it's a Sunday fight card. That's what I'm thinking. I'm probably thinking that the main event is over by like 5 or 6 p.m. my time.
Wow, you should probably do a live fight chat.
That's funny. Because that Gervonta Davis numbers did very well. Yeah. Rob, go do a live fight chat.
The fight was over before Matt and I could even get Showtime pulled up.
No, I had Showtime pulled up. Fu did not have Showtime pulled up, okay? Anyway, let's go out to Gary in Dallas. Gary, what's up?
So I'm still trying to get this right. Tank Davis is the super champ of the WBA.
Yes.
And now, how do you say Andrew? How do you say
Andrew Cancio?
Cancio. He's the regular champ.
Yes.
Okay. So if Tank Davis fought Cancio, would it be for the super featherweight championship of the world?
Yes, that's actually exactly what happens in the WBA regulations. Those exact words.
The WBA is a joke now. I mean, they used to call the WBO the W bogus, but this is absurd. You're telling me they downgraded Machado's belt to a regular belt, so they give the super belt to a guy who had just missed weight, or a guy who had never fought in the weight class. That was what they did?
Yes, that's exactly what they did. Because I know I told you this very quickly, Gary. I know I told you this in the chat, but for those that are listening via podcast, etc., those listening on YouTube and didn't see me say this in the chat, the exact chronological events of what happened is Machado beat Jezreel Corrales. Jezreel Corrales beat Uchiyama twice. Jezreel Corrales, though, missed a weight. So he technically lost the belt then. And it was only available to Machado. And at that point, when that happened, it was never specified that he was then downgraded to a regular champion. It was only after that. And that happened in October of 2017. In April of 2018, Gervonta Davis fought Jesus Cuellar for the Super Championship, which was Jezreel Corrales, who lost it on the scale. The WBA used Corrales' missing of weight as an excuse to then downgrade that fight, that championship, to the regular status, and then upgrade Gervonta Davis to Super Champion. Why? Because Gervonta Davis makes on-point on average over $1 million a fight. So that sanctioning fee is very big compared to Alberto Machado. That is clearly why they did that.
If you look at what the WBA did there, they punished Machado for beating their super champion, but just not for beating their super champion who went into the ring with an unfair advantage of not making weight.
Yes.
So I beat that guy, and then you punish me by downgrading my belt. Oh, okay. To give it to a guy who just missed weight or a guy who's never fought in the weight class. No, the logic is impeccable. I mean, that that makes perfect sense. Good job, WBA. I'm a Tank fan. I'm not trying to sound like a Tank hater. I really think Tank is a special talent. That being said, and I said the same thing after he beat Clayhar. These wins mean nothing. Like he beat a 122-pounder who was like a fringe contender at 122. So what? I mean, you could see the size difference in the ring. Even though I thought the size difference would be even greater than it was, you could see that those two guys aren't the same weight class. And he's not even fighting a premier 122-pounder. It's not like when Loma fought Rigondeaux. Like Rigondeaux's the best in that weight class. He's fighting a guy that no one cares about, 2 weight classes smaller than him. So, that's a bad sparring session. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that prove to anyone? You know what I'm saying? I'm hearing Tank look great against who? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know.
No, I agree. I largely agree. And again, also, just to add to this, because I feel like it's always going to be seen as hate on Gervonta Davis. Same with like us mentioning the WBA scam. That's going to be seen as criticism of Gervonta Davis. That's not Gervonta Davis's fault. I think for the WBA, that's obviously on them. That is up and down every division. So that's not Tank's fault as to why the WBA screwed over Machado. All the criticism should go to the WBA. And for Gervonta's relatively lackluster opponents as of late, I think a lot of that criticism should be at Mayweather. It needs to be at Mayweather Promotions. They have completely screwed up the momentum of that guy post-Pedraza in every conceivable way.
They couldn't have done a worse job promoting him. That's for sure.
And again, Gervonta Davis is an extreme talent. I want to make that very clear. I think everyone that's a boxing fan loves watching Tank Davis fight. He's a fantastic fighter, absolutely entertaining, seems like a legit world-level talent, obviously. That Pedraza win is looking better and better by each day. But yet, we're not getting that Tank Davis that we want to see. I think that the criticism is not at Tank, it is at Mayweather Promotions. And just for those listening, I want to make that distinction.
And this is going to sound funny when I say it, because Tank is a two-time world champion, right? At this point, if you want to put Tank Davis in the ring with either Burchell or Loma, he needs to take a step-up fight, really. And I know that sounds weird because he's a world champion, but he hasn't been fighting world champions. He hasn't fought a legitimate top 10 guy since Pedraza, and that was 2 years ago. He fought Liam Walsh, and Liam Walsh had one decent victory, but Walsh wasn't a top 10 super featherweight. You know what I'm saying? And then since then he's fought nobody, right? So I'm saying he hasn't had a real opponent in 2 years, and now you want to throw him in the ring with either Burchell, who I think is probably a top 10 to 12 pound for pound guy, or Loma, who's like 1 or 2. So that's too big of a step up in class for a guy who has been fighting nobodies for the last 2 years now. You can't. You know what I'm saying?
Gary, I agree with you, and I think that there's a factor here, and I talked to Matt about this a lot, and Rob, like when we talk about the inconsistency in his fights, like he needs to be more active if he's going to take on a Burchelt. He needs to be more active if he's going to step up and take Loma, because he's not going to be 100% himself until he's fighting 2-3 times a year. You know, like that fight yesterday, he should be able to fight 4 of those fights a year. I mean, come on.
5, 6, come on.
If that's his competition level, like that's like prospect level. That's not
2-time champion.
It's not 2-time champion super belt holder. Like that's not what you should be doing.
So is his future at 135?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, okay.
I think so.
But I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah. You have been. I will give you that. He's missed weight too many times. Like, I know he finally did make weight for this time, but I think that must be hurting him from a pure health perspective. And again, it just is bad publicity. Like, it's bad PR for him. Like, move to 135. It's not like 135 is a murderer's row right now at the top. You can easily get your way to the top of that division without much of an issue. You know, you might obviously run into a Lomachenko problem, but other than that, I mean, maybe Richard Comey. That's about it. That's really going to give Tank Davis issues at 135, in my opinion. Tank could easily jump in at 135, and even without beating those guys or anyone at 135, be a top 5 fighter. So move it to 135. It's healthier, and there's honestly better fights for more money.
I think the problem at 135 is, you're right, it's not top heavy at the moment. But if you put Mikey Garcia back in there, you got Mikey and Loma, and the Mikey fight would be easily makeable. And I don't think they want to make that fight on Tank's side. I don't think they really believe in Tank, which is why I think he's been fighting small guys. He doesn't even fight anyone in his own weight class, right? Even Morris started at 118. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I like Morris. I thought Morris would have got knocked out, but would have put up a good fight until he got hit one too many times. But they're not even trying to put him in with 130-pounders. They're not even trying to put him in with Tevin Farmer, you know what I'm saying?
But Gary, we know that Tank is good. I think they know that Tank is good. Like,
yeah.
All we need is to go back and watch the Pedraza fight, and then look at Loma fight Pedraza. Look at Tevin Farmer fight Pedraza. Like, Tank Davis is talented and special. Like, that is not up for debate. And I think it's not a matter of Mayweather Promotions not trusting or not believing in Tank. I just don't think they like Tank. I don't think Mayweather likes him. I think that is very clear. And unfortunately, he's stuck with Mayweather, I think, until 2021. I think is when he's a free agent, something like that. So we just have to wait here, I think, until Tank is out of that contract. I think that's why we get this awful competition level. I think Mayweather goes to Tank and says, look, you can fight Loma or fight these scrums, and doesn't give the in-between. Doesn't actually be a good promoter. I really think that's what he does. Mayweather went on national TV and threw Tank at a Loma matchup when he had just beat Pedraza. Like, Mayweather is despicable when it comes to his dealings and how he has handled Gervonta Davis. I don't think it's because he doesn't believe he's talented. I think he doesn't like him.
Okay, nothing professional, strictly personal kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest. If we had, let's say that Pedraza fight and Tank looked awful in that, but still won, I would see a lot of credence to your point, and I would probably maybe agree with it. But we don't. We have him demolishing Pedraza and via vicious KO. Like, no one has replicated that. And I mean, the great Vasily Lomachenko. That is a huge indication of something. So I don't think it's a matter of the talent not being there. It can't be that. Him as a fighter has not shown us that. We have not seen any indication that he is a hype job, in my opinion.
So at 135, I like the Luke Campbell idea. Who is Luke Campbell signed to? Is he with Frank Warren?
Matchroom.
No, Matchroom, Eddie Hearn.
He's with Matchroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I like that fight, but I mean, all the good fights I'd like to see him at 135 are on a different promotional side of the spectrum. And I don't know what Floyd's relationship is. Al Heyman likes to. I don't know if I do like that fight though. I think that would be a good fight up for him. I think he could beat Comey because Comey is too flawed fundamentally. But again, going from fighting 122-pounders to a big 135-pounder is a big difference. I think an Easter fight would be good. I think he could beat Easter, but I know they're friends, right? So they probably wouldn't fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess Campbell's the best option for him to test the waters at 135. I do think that's the option. That's the avenue he needs to go. Because he obviously can't make 35.
I don't think that's the first fight for him, because I think Luke Campbell's a harder fight than what they're looking for his first fight at 135. And on top of that, it is Eddie Hearn fighter, and that's a DAZN fighter in a sense. So there's that issue. I think names are going to be a little more realistic. are, again, Edner Cherry maybe, Dennis Shafikov, Ricky Burns maybe. I know he is an Eddie Hearns guy, but he's a guy that can move over quite easily. Oh, Gary. What? I'm sorry. I know you don't like the names, but guy, don't be that mean to Dennis Shafikov.
No, I think
I was
Shafikov
listening to the argument from earlier.
or Ricky Burns is okay, right?
Okay.
Like I can live with those names because they're names.
Mm-hmm.
Edna Cherry, you're gonna have a tough time selling Edna Cherry to the public after you just gave him Hugo Ruiz. You know what I'm saying? So you got to give the fans something better than Edna Cherry. People are gonna start to really question his level of opposition if you give me Edna Cherry next.
Hey, Edner Cherry's only lost one time in the last decade.
Is that right?
Yeah, you want to know who he lost to?
Yeah.
Jose Pedraza.
Okay. I feel like Edna Cherry's lost to every good fighter.
He just beat Omar Douglas, and Omar Douglas was in that great fight with Javier Fortuna, I think a few years ago.
No, okay. I'd rather see a Chakakov fight.
Of course. No, I agree.
Ricky Burns. I wanted to get on Canario Barrios real quick. Barrios versus Virgil Ortiz. Who you got?
Ooh. I probably go Ortiz. I think he's I think more built for a firefight, if that makes sense. Like Barrios is a technician, and I do sort of favor technicians, but I also think that we haven't seen him in the fire yet. And I think Ortiz is the type of guy to throw Barrios in a firefight and show that Barrios maybe is not ready for that yet. I would probably slightly go towards Virgil Ortiz, but that's a fun fight. Like I would fucking love that. Oh my god, doesn't happen, but I love that.
Right, obviously you will get that fight, and they really are protecting these two guys. I like both of these fighters, obviously for obvious reasons. But can they put a live body in front of one of in front of Barrios? Can they give him somebody? I mean, we were talking about names. Look, if he can't, he's 23 now. He's about to outgrow 140 any day. If he can't beat Broner at this point, then he's far off. And he's probably not the prospect you think he is. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't beat Broner, if you can't beat Josecito Lopez, if you can't beat that level of guy, Victor Ortiz, then you're probably not the prospect that everyone says you are, because he's 23, 24 years old now. He's not a baby anymore. It's time to let him sink or swim a little bit instead of just giving him, tomato can after tomato can.
I largely agree with you. I do think those names are too big of a step up, like I said earlier in the show. But, I mean, I know Foo's here thinking that the same thing. Like, he wanted to see Jeff Horn fight Mario Barrios. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, the guy's not talented, but I think some of these fights seem a little bit too far to reach. Like let's remember what happened to Lubin, guys. Even though Lubin just picked up a big win, let's remember what happened to him.
I agree with Gary. The guy's 20-something fights in. He's 20-something years old. Like, he's going to have to start taking some step-ups.
I'm not disagreeing with that point. But a step-up is very different than saying, hey, you should fight Jeff Horn. He should fight, I forget who Gary brought up. That was a really good name.
Adrian Broner?
No, it wasn't Broner. He brought up another name, I feel like.
Josecito Lopez?
No, he brought up somebody else.
Victor Ortiz were the three names I think I said.
Okay, well, even with those names, I think that's a little bit, a bridge too far right now. Like, I don't know. I think Barrios, again, going from people that are nobodies, people that are not live bodies, to former champions, guys that are still young, still top 10 talent. That's a huge step up, man. I'm worried about any prospect taking that far of a leap anytime.
How about Brandon Rios?
Ooh, I like that. Or like a Mike Alvarado, like somebody of like that ilk.
Is Alvarado still active? I was thinking that too, but I thought maybe he wasn't active anymore.
No, he's been fighting on like the undercards and top rank cards recently.
Okay, someone like that, someone who can offer up some resistance and take your best shots. Someone who's not going to just lay down for you.
Yeah, somebody that's a veteran but faded. That's what you're looking for.
Exactly. I think that's all I got. That's it.
Okay, Gary. Thank you for the call. Have a great day. Gentlemen, I know you're all looking at your phone, getting all, you guys are potting. Awesome over here. Great conversations.
Well, I was trying to see, so Lubin stepped up on his 18th fight against Charlo.
Yes.
But he did have 3 12-rounders before that.
Yeah.
And to your credit, cool. Barrios has not had any.
And on top of that, look at those 12-rounders were even against. Just having a 12-round fight doesn't mean much. Who are you fighting in those 12 rounds?
Yeah. So you are right. That step up does need to be gradual for Barrios. Yeah. He hasn't had a 12-round fight at all. So he needs to be in some wars.
Not necessarily war. He just needs some rounds with a guy that's been there before. That's the best way to sort of put it. A guy like Brandon Rios has been there before. Mike Alvarado been there before. Even Victor Ortiz. I think that was a good sort of pull. It was a Victor Ortiz, even though I know he's dealing with some legal issues. I forget exactly what they were, but I know he's dealing with some legal issues. Somebody that, again, been there before, a veteran in the game, but clearly faded. Clearly even close to being shot, if not shot. That's sort of what you want to face from going from nobodies to that step up, and before you reach top 15 contenders. Before you face a Thomas Delorme, a Devin Alexander, before you face those level of competitors, you need to face people that are lesser than those. I think that makes the most perfect sense for a prospect. But by digressing, Barrios, extreme talent. I think that is obvious, even if he hasn't had that step up yet. I can't wait to see that. But, gentlemen, final thoughts today. Rob, let's go to you first, since you've been a little bit quiet over there. Final thoughts, wrap-up thoughts.
Trying to keep on top of things, Matt, in case there was something last-minute breaking. Or, you know me, always looking for that scoop if we can get it. But, our final thoughts. Tank Davis, let's just see you raise the level of competition. I know this one wasn't necessarily your fault, but I don't think people were particularly hyped for the Mares fight anyway. We just want to see someone with a clear talent, power, and speed and explosiveness. Do it against someone that we rate, that we can then go, wow, this, he really is who we think he might be. But it's just one of those nights. We saw the odd upset. Not the biggest names in the sport in action, but we're getting closer to announcements. Apparently there's Joshua tomorrow. And I think we'll soon then hear the Wilder Fury stuff, and it will all start panning out, and we'll get a real true schedule ahead of us of this first quarter. Is it
first half the year?
Yeah. So we look forward to that. Obviously, we just want to talk about fights more than business and all that kind of thing. So fingers crossed, fights start getting made. We see fights that we want to see. And I'm sure, we'll get a bunch that we don't, but, that's just the landscape at the moment with so many boxing dates and so many fights to make. And, we can't get what we want all the time. But, hey, we're boxing fans, right? When do we really get that? But, follow me, UK Rob MCR, Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe. Usual thing, tell a friend, 5-star reviews. Patreon, go and check out episode 6 of Boxing Banter.
Do it
now. Why are you still here?
Just do it.
You don't need to hear these guys' fucking social medias. I've told you where to go. Go and do it.
That is true. But Fugatti, might as well tell them your social media while we're at it.
You can find me at Fugatti_MCR. It's FOOGATTI_MCR. I really think a lot of the chat seems to be pushing for better fights, and what I would say is the fans have a big voice in social media now for these fights getting made. So if you want to see Tank take a Burchelt fight or Farmer fight, then got to put pressure on them. That's what everyone's doing now. Everyone's listening to what's being said on social media. So let's make it happen. Let's be good advocates for the sport. Get these better fights, so we don't have to see Tank versus Ruiz or another 122 or 126 pounder. You know, don't be fanboys.
Don't be fucking fanboys. That is right. Final thoughts. Obviously, you can find me at Matt Hunter MCR all platforms, including Snapchat. What up, 20% out there. But God, Gervonta Davis, gigantic star in the making, in my opinion. On top of that, we will discuss the UFC card tomorrow. UFC 234, Israel Adesanya versus Anderson Silva, another star in the making, or star that is born in combat sports. You can definitely delve into that one as well later. And also, like Rob said, we already did a show today. If you want more content, if you want to listen to us talk for another hour, you can. Patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio to get boxing banter, championship rounds, and the return, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the return of UK Hour coming this week. I should have had a soundbite ready. I didn't. I apologize. But anyways, have a great day, great night, wherever you are. Stay safe. Hit the like button on your way out. Share the show. Peace.
Peace out, guys.